Hello friends, welcome back to Legalopolis. Friends, in this video, we will do a comprehensive exploration of the L2 visa. Whether you're a spouse, minor child, or unmarried child under 21 years of age of an L1 visa applicant or holder, this video is for you. In this video, we'll delve into everything you need to know about the L2 visa, from its very basics to the application process, and end this video with 40 most important interview questions that can be asked and excellent tips to answer them. Stay tuned as we guide you through the ins and outs of obtaining this important visa and help you navigate your journey to the United States with confidence. So let's get started. Now, what is an L2 visa? An L2 visa is a non-immigrant visa that allows the dependents of L1 visa holders to accompany them to the United States. Now friends, we've already learned in previous video that L1 visa is designed for intra-company transferees, that is those employees of multinational companies who are temporarily being transferred to a US office or its affiliate. Now the dependents who are eligible to apply for an L2 visa are L1's spouse and unmarried dependent children under 21 years of age of L1 applicant or L1 visa holder. Whereas parents, siblings, grandparents, and other relatives of L1 visa applicant or visa holder are not eligible for L2 visa. However, they can apply for a B2 visa to visit the L1 visa holder. Now friends, let's understand how to apply for an L2 visa. Now L2 dependents are not automatically included in the L1 petition. They can either, number 1, apply for an L2 visa separately at the US consulate based on L1 principal's petition, or if you, that is the L2 visa applicant, are already in the United States, then you can file Form I-539 for a change in your non-immigrant status. Now, if L1's spouse and children apply for a change in status, then only one dependent, which is usually the spouse or the eldest child, will be the primary applicant and file Form I-539. Whereas additional dependents like children will have to complete and apply Form I-539A. Now friends, also remember that children who are minors cannot sign their own petition. Instead, it has to be signed by the L2 spouse, whereas children who are 18 and above can sign their own application. Now friends, it's important to remember that the USCIS, that is US Citizenship and Immigration Services, regularly updates forms on its website, and therefore it is important that while filling any form, always use the current version on USCIS website, else it will reject any application that is filed with outdated forms. The current versions of different forms can be found on the official USCIS website. I will paste a link in the description box for your convenience. Now friends, let's look at the validity of L2 visa. An L2 visa will be valid as long as the primary L1 visa applicant's visa is valid. Typically, an L1 visa is initially valid for a maximum of 3 years. Now, if your spouse or parent's visa is L1A, then the visa can be extended for a maximum of up to 7 years. And as far as L1B applicants are concerned, they can stay in the United States for a maximum of up to 5 years. Normally, you can renew your L2 visa while you are already in the United States. But if you are outside the country, that is outside of the United States, when your L2 visa expires, you must renew it before returning back to United States. Now, processing times may vary and could take several weeks depending upon the embassy or consulate workload. Now friends, let's look at the advantages of L2 visa. Number 1, it allows the family of L1 visa holders to stay together in the United States. Number 2, no separate sponsorship is needed for L2 visa. Number 3, It allows the spouse and children of L1 visa holders, that is, L2 dependents, to attend school and study in the United States without changing the visa type to student visa. Number 4. The spouse on L2 visa can work full-time without requiring an EAD, that is, an authorization for work. Number 5. L2 visa applicants or holders can open a bank account. Number 6. They can apply for another non-immigrant status visa. Number 7. An L2 visa holder can seek an adjustment of status and get an immigrant permit, that is, green card. Number 8. L2 visa holders can travel freely within and outside the United States. And number 9. Your spouse and you, that is L1 and L2 visa holders, can have the social security number. However, there are certain limitations as well. Number 1. The unmarried children under 21 years of age are not eligible to work under L2 visa. Number 2. Children on L2 visa cannot have SSN as there is no provision for L2 dependent child SSN. And number 3. Typically, L2 visa beneficiaries are permitted to remain in the United States as long as the primary L1 visa holder maintains legal status. However, if there are alterations in the status of L1 visa holder, such as transitioning to another visa classification or departing from the United States, the L2 visa holders will also have to adjust their status accordingly or depart from the country as might be required. And if, after the entire L visa duration is over, the L1 visa holder and dependents on L2 visa must leave the United States, spend at least 1 year outside of the United States before being eligible to apply for a new visa. Now friends, let's explore the process of applying for an L2 visa. Now there are two scenarios to consider. Scenario 1, when the dependents apply for the L2 visa along with the L1 applicant. In this case, once the L1 applicant receives the approved I-129 or 129S petition, the process for applying for both L2 and L1 visa begins simultaneously by filling out Form DS-160. And scenario 2 is where the L1 applicant has already received their L1 visa and the dependents, that is spouse and unmarried children under 21 years of age, can apply for the L2 visa later on. Now friends, in both these scenarios, the first step is filling Form DS-160. And please remember, DS-160 has to be filled by each applicant separately, including minors. Now there's also an option to fill out Family DS-160 form. Friends, I have created a comprehensive video guide on filling out DS-160 form independently. I encourage you to have a look at it because I'm confident it will be very beneficial for you. Now friends, once you've filled the form, please download and save the DS-160 form confirmation page. Then comes step 2. Pay the non-refundable visa application fee, which currently is $185. But please check with your embassy website as regards the currency and method for payment. Step 3 is schedule an appointment for interview. Now to schedule an appointment for your interview, the process varies depending on the country you are applying from. In some countries, you'll receive one appointment date which includes both your interview and also biometrics. In other countries, you may be given two separate appointment dates, the first for your biometrics and the second one for your interview. It is important to check the specific procedures for your country to ensure a smooth and efficient process. And since US embassies have long wait times, please try to schedule your interview as soon as possible. Step 4. Prepare the documentation for your interview. Now friends, since you are applying as an L2 dependent, you must carry proof of being married to or being the child of the L1 applicant. Now, the important documents that you must carry are: number 1, DS 160 confirmation page; number 2, interview appointment confirmation page; number 3, receipt of payment of visa fees; number 4, passport of all L2 applicants; number 5, a photograph that is as per US visa requirements. The link is in the description box. Number 6, the L1 visa holder's approved petition, that is I-129 or I-129S in case of blanket petition. Number 7, your marriage certificate. Please carry an original and also a copy. Number 8, proof of marriage, like marriage photographs, marriage album, to show the entire process of marriage being conducted. If possible, a marriage invitation card, bank statement if you have a joint bank account, anything that you can use to prove that you and your L1 visa holder are married. Number 9, original birth certificates and one extra copy of all the children who are unmarried and under 21 years of age. Photographs to prove that the children are actually dependents of L1 visa holder, like vacation photos or a christening ceremony in which both the L1 applicant and the L2 applicants are clearly visible, or a group family photo, or say school report cards or transcripts where your names are mentioned as parents, or if the L1 applicant has a joint bank account with the child, proof of the same as well. 11. Educational qualifications proof for your L1 spouse and also yourself. If you, the spouse of the L1 applicant, is employed, then you'll need to obtain a letter from your company stating that your leave has been granted, clearly mentioning on company's letterhead the duration of your leave and its approval, which is also signed by your manager. If you have resigned, please remember to carry your relieving letter with you as well. Now, if you are applying separately from an L1 applicant, then please also carry copies of L1 visa holder's passport and visa, copy of L1 visa applicant's employment and transfer letter, your L1 spouse's salary slip or pay stubs, copy of L1 spouse's educational qualifications and if possible their resume as well, a copy of L1 spouse's income tax return. If they are certified, it is better. Copy of L1 spouse's bank statement. Now friends, after collecting all these documents, let's focus on step number 5, visa interview. Your L2 visa interview is crucial and it aims at determining your eligibility for the L2 visa by understanding and confirming your genuine relationship with the L1 visa holder. Friends, it's essential to be honest during the interview, and so make sure to answer questions truthfully and clearly. Questions cover general and personal topics, assessing consistency with evidence of your relationship. Once the visa officer is convinced, visa approval is immediate. Usually, children under 14 years of age do not have to come to the US Embassy for interview, but it is best to check on the embassy's website where you will be appearing for interviews as guidelines and rules keep changing. Now friends, let's look at the most common questions that you can be asked in an L2 visa interview. Number 1, what type of visa are you applying for? And the answer should be simple. I'm applying for an L2 visa. Who else is applying for L2 visa with you? Now my child or my children are also L2 visa applicants. They could ask you, what is the purpose of your visit? Or they could say, why do you have to go to the United States? And here your answer must contain A, that the purpose of your visit to the United States is to accompany your spouse who holds an L1 visa, or to accompany a parent who holds an L1 visa. And B, that you wish to remain with the L1 visa holder during their employment in the United States to ensure that your family stays together and you can support them in their work. Now, they might be interested in knowing who made the visa appointment for interview for you. Now, here answer honestly. If you did it yourself, you could say, I made the appointment myself. Now, if your L1 spouse or parent did it for you, you can say L1 visa holder made the appointment for a family. Or if an agent did the same for you, you could simply answer that my appointment was made by an agent. They might also be interested in knowing if you've ever been to the United States before. And here, please answer honestly, either yes, I have been, or no, I have never been to the United States before. When was the last time you traveled to the United States? And here, please try to remember the most recent date, especially the month and the year when you traveled to the United States, and also try to remember the date when you returned back from the United States. But answer the specific question that they have asked for. If they ask when did you travel, tell the date when you left for United States. And if they say when you returned from United States, tell the date when you departed from the US, because these kind of numbers and dates can easily be corroborated and cross-checked into the system. Then they can ask you, what type of visa did you travel on? Now here mention the name of the specific visa, like I traveled on B2, H1, B1, whatever is the visa category that you traveled on. Mention the visa type that was applicable for you during your last travel to the United States. Then they might also ask, what was the duration of your stay? And you could clearly mention that I stayed in the United States for these many days, or if you were there for a few months or a few years, whatever applies to you, please answer that clearly. Then they could ask you, have you ever been denied a US visa before? If not, it's a simple answer, no, I have never been denied a US visa before. But if you have been denied, then you must answer in affirmative that yes, I was denied a US visa in the past. Now, if you have answered in affirmative, then remember to be prepared, as they will ask you more questions about when, why was your visa denied, and if your visa was subsequently approved, please do remember to mention that as well in your answer. Then they might ask you, could you verify the name and date of birth of your spouse? Now you can simply say, my husband or wife's name is, whatever is their name, and their date of birth is this. Now friends, please remember, whenever you are telling the date of birth, always say the month clearly in the form of a word and not in the form of a number. Because in the United States, the standard method of writing a date is month, date, and then year. And therefore, to avoid confusion, always mention the month as in January, February, and not in a numerical form. Then they might be interested in knowing the educational qualifications of your spouse. Now here you could mention whatever are your spouse's educational qualifications. They might also be interested in knowing in which company or organization does your spouse work. You must know the name of the company with full clarity, that my husband or wife works in this company. Then, what is your spouse's designation in their organization? So here you could say, my husband or wife works as a, whatever is their designation in name of the company. Then they could ask you, when was the L1 visa of your spouse stamped? Now clearly mention that my husband or wife's L1 visa was stamped on whatever is the date, and please carry a copy of their L1 visa with you so that you could always show it as proof and they can counter check it in their system. They could also ask you, how long has your spouse been working for this company? So you could clearly mention that my husband or wife has been working for whatever is the name of the company for last these many years. Now please remember that as an L1 applicant, your spouse must have been working for the current employer for more than 1 year. Otherwise, an L1 visa would not be granted. So please be very careful while responding. Question number 16. Why have you applied for the L2 visa separately and not with your spouse? Or why have you not applied for an L2 visa at the same time when your spouse applied for an L1 visa? Now, friends, if you're not going for the interview with your spouse who is an L1 applicant, then this question is bound to be asked. Therefore, please prepare well for this answer so that your answer is truthful, honest, and consistent. You could state genuine reasons like number 1, if you had any employment related commitments, you could mention that. But please do make sure to carry some documentary proof to show extraordinary commitment due to which you could not travel and apply with your husband. Or you already had another visa type at that time and now you wish to apply for L2 visa to travel. Now please make sure to carry of this valid visa and associated details. It could also be possible that the embassy was located in another city and due to some personal reasons you could not travel. Then please do carry evidence of that personal reason that incapacitated you to travel along with your L1 visa applicant. Or there could be a medical emergency. You could mention that clearly, but make sure you carry a proof or evidence of the same. Simply stating something will not be considered a genuine reason. You should always carry a proof to substantiate your claim. If you were involved in academic or extracurricular commitment towards your children, you can also mention that and carry a documentary proof of the same. Or if you had a personal family matter or a family situation, could be good or bad, that you had to take care of, you could mention that as well, and if it is possible, do carry some documentary proof. If there were some logistical issues, you could mention that as well. So friends, any reason that is genuine, personal, and specific to your unique situation and is honest should be the reason given in this answer. Always be genuine as to why you did not apply for an L2 visa with your L1 spouse, and always try to carry some form of documentary evidence to support and substantiate your answer so as to add genuineness to your claim. It is also very important to emphasize that despite the separate applications, your intention is to be together in the United States to support each other and your family unit. You could also express your commitment to complying with all immigration regulations and fulfilling the requirements of the L2 visa. Then they could ask you, since when has your spouse been working in the United States? So you could answer, my husband or my wife has been in the United States since, and mention the date since when they have been in the United States. They might want to see how much you know about your spouse, and they could ask you, what is your spouse's annual salary or earning in the United States? Mention your spouse's salary, and as a proof, always carry either a copy of his monthly salary slip or a transfer letter mentioning your spouse's salary, or an employment contract mentioning his or her salary. Or you could also carry bank statements showing salary being credited in their account. Always make sure your answer is same as mentioned in the documents submitted with the United States Embassy, like Form DS-160, and also on the approved petition, that is I-129 or I-129S. These kinds of information can easily be checked and corroborated by the visa officer, and therefore consistency is key here. They might also be interested in knowing, has the company of your spouse in the United States applied for the green card petition? Now answer this question honestly, because this can be easily checked by the visa officer. Now they might want to know a little bit about your marriage. How long have you been married? And you could simply answer, we've been married for these many years. Then they could ask you, what is the date of your marriage? And you could say, we were married on, say for example, 21st of June 2012. Where did you get married? And mention the name of the city, the state, or the country where you got married. And as proof, you could always show your marriage certificate, which generally mentions the place or the location where you got married. They might ask you where and when did you meet your spouse, and you could answer this question with a little smile on your face. Then they might specifically ask to see your marriage certificate. And you could simply say, sure, here's a marriage certificate, and hand it over to them. They might ask you, do you have your wedding album and wedding invitation card? Now, if you have your wedding album with you, it's always better to carry it with you. And you could say, please, here's a wedding album and here's an invitation card. Now, if you don't have your invitation card, if you didn't save it, you were married for the last 20 years and you don't have it, you can simply mention it. But I'm sure you will still have photographs from your wedding, which you can carry with you. Then they might ask you, can you tell me your father-in-law and mother-in-law's name and where do they reside? Please make sure to remember their names correctly and the city where they live. If one of them is deceased or both are deceased, please make sure you mention that as well. They might also ask you about your educational qualifications. And you can simply say, I'm an engineer, an economist, doctor, lawyer, accountant, designer, whatever is it that you do, you could mention that as well. Then they might ask you, what do you do presently, or what do you do currently? Now here what they want to know is that if you're a homemaker, you're a student, you're employed, whatever is it that you do, mention that clearly and honestly. However, if they specifically ask, will you be working in the United States or will you be studying in the United States? And if you intend to work or study in the United States, please say so with full clarity. And if you're not sure, you can simply say that as of now, you don't have any intention to work or study in the United States. You could give some reasons, like first you would want to settle your children in school, set up your home and logistics before you decide if you want to pursue further studies or you want to enter the workforce. They might ask you, do you currently work? If you don't, you can simply say, no, presently I'm not working, I'm a homemaker. And if you are working, you must answer in affirmative and mention the name of the company where you work. So you could say, yes, I'm currently working in this company as a, and whatever is your designation. Make sure to carry a proof of employment, either in the form of your employment contract, salary slip, or a bank statement showing salary being credited in your account, implying that you are employed. Now, if you are employed, the visa officer might ask you, will you quit your job to travel to the United States? And here you can mention either, yes, I will resign from my current employer so that I can travel to the United States, or you could also mention, I plan to take a leave so that I can travel to the United States and be with my husband or wife. Or you can answer whatever it is that you intend to do in your specific unique situation. Now friends, if you are currently employed and you answer that you will either quit your job or you will take a leave from your current employment, then the visa officer might ask you, how will you spend the whole day in United States while your spouse will be at work? Now here there are different ways in which you can answer this question. If you intend to study or work, you could answer on those lines. Or you could mention that you will be taking care of your children who are young. Or you could mention that you will take this opportunity to explore the city and famous places and also make new friends. So please prepare some answers which are personal to you, which are genuine, which are important and are relevant to your specific situation. They might ask you, where will you stay in the United States? Now, if you're applying with your spouse, you can mention the name of the place, for example, a hotel or a friend or a relative where you will temporarily put up, and then mention that you will look for a house so that you can enroll your children in school nearby. Now, it is important to remember the address where you will be staying. However, if you're applying after your spouse has received their L1 visa and they are already in the United States, then you can say that you will be staying with your spouse at the same location where he is and mention the address clearly. Alright? And as a proof, please make sure to carry a copy of the lease document and maybe a bank statement showing payment of rent to the landlord. Or you could carry some utility bills like electricity bill or internet bill to further substantiate your claim. They might ask you, do you have any children? And you can say, yes, I have one child or I have two children. And they might ask you, how old are your children? And you can simply answer based on whatever is their age. Then they might ask you, are your children US citizens? Please answer appropriately. If they are, you can say, yes, my children are US citizens. If no, then you can say, no, they are not US citizens. They might say, can you show me their birth certificates? And of course, always answer, sure, here are the birth certificates. They might ask you, who will pay for the expenses of your trip to the United States? Now, if your spouse's company will pay for your travel, you can always mention, my spouse's company, whatever is the name of the company, will pay for our trip. And if you will be traveling on your own expenses, then mention that I will be paying for our trip to the United States, or my husband or my wife will be paying for our trip to the United States. Or it could be my parents will pay for my trip to the United States. They might ask you, do you have any friends or relatives in the United States? Now, if you don't have any friends or relatives, you can simply say, no, I don't have any friends or relatives in the United States. And if you do, you could clearly mention that, yes, I have some friends and relatives in the United States. And then please be prepared to answer some more questions about where they live and what they do. And the last question for today. What will you do once your visa expires? Now, here it is important to mention that you will return back to your home country once your visa expires. And so, friends, in conclusion, the L2 visa offers a valuable opportunity for spouses and unmarried dependents of L1 visa holders to accompany their loved ones to the United States. Throughout this video, we explored the advantages and limitations of L2 visa as well as the application process, including the important L2 visa interview. We've covered 40 commonly asked interview questions, providing insight and tips for a successful interview experience. Remember to bring all necessary documents and answer questions sincerely, honestly, and confidently. And always make sure to dress up formally. While the L2 visa journey may have a little bit of challenges, with a good preparation, you can navigate it successfully. Whether you are starting a new chapter or reuniting with family, the L2 visa opens doors for exciting opportunities in the United States. So best of luck on your journey ahead, and until then, safe travels!